Good evening, everyone. My name is Paula Jansen. I'm with Leisure Town Life, and thank you for joining us. We're here with Ken Stockton, who is one of the LTHA board candidates for 2021, and he's here this evening for an Ask Me Anything event, which is basically just that to a certain extent. But what I hope to do this evening is take a number of questions and feedback, concerns, thoughts that I've received from the community over the past few weeks and condense them into one or two points this evening that hopefully Ken could shed some light on. The light topic that we are hosting for this evening is called Leadership Now. So for those of you who know Ken, he's a longtime Leisure Town resident, and he has a lot of history in our community as a volunteer, as committee members and chairs. And he also served on the Leisure Town board from 2012 to roughly 2015. So he has a lot of history, and he's been very involved with our community. So for those of you who don't know him, that's a little bit of his background. And out of all the new candidates, he is the only one that has served in the past. The new candidates, there's 7 in total, 4 new. So I thought that was worth noting. So let's get started. It's going to be quick. We're going to stop exactly at 6:30, and it's going to be a very informal discussion with me leading with a couple of questions that are condensed from a number of community concerns. And then hopefully that will help you to get to know Ken a little bit more, understand where he comes from, what his motivation is, and what his intentions are as far as serving on the board and leading our community. So what I'd like to start off with, Ken, is your history. You know, you, like I said before, that you do have history here in Leisure Town, more so than any of the other candidates right now, other than the incumbents on the board. And with that, you know, from 2012 and even beyond that, Leisure Town has changed tremendously, you know, just so much in such a short period of time. Society has changed, you know, rules and regulations and bylaws, and there's all sorts of little shifts and changes. So I wanted to kind of focus not so much on the past, but on how you're going to lead the board from the present moving forward. And hopefully we can take a look at that. You're probably one of our most vocal and outspoken candidates that we have. And you're frequently on Nextdoor, on Facebook, you know, face to face with people, you know, you like to engage. But you're very outspoken, and I look at that as a positive and possibly a negative at the same time, in some people's eyes, you know, as it has been brought up to me. So my question is this: my first topic that I'd like to bring up is, you know, you have mentioned many times in recent months, and I believe your quote was specifically, rumor has a tendency to become reality here in Leisure Town. And we all know that rumor, if it's unmanageable, if it's not managed properly, that it can become destructive, and it can become debilitating for some people if it's not handled from the beginning. And a couple of situations, instances that I can give as examples specifically for those who may not understand what I'm talking about, or new residents to Leisure Town, is last year around this time, we had Eva Lucas was running for the board, and she's running again this year. And there was a situation where one of the existing board members went public with something that had happened with Eva's business a few years ago that had absolutely zero relevance to her position on the board. What happened out of that just grew out of control. And it became the topic of discussion to where people could not see beyond what that actually was. It turned out that it was much ado about nothing. There were some things that had happened, but they had been resolved, and life went on. Well, recently there's been, another campaign-related issue that has come up about one of the incumbents, something that happened 20 years ago, that different place and time. But now that seems to be a topic of discussion. Now, whether or not this is unique to just what happens around campaigns in HOA and community environments, I would hope that that wouldn't be the norm, but it seems to be here. My question to you is this: what plans do you have, knowing that and being here for as long as you have? What plans do you have, if you are elected, to help with damage control, to help with reputation management, to help with rumor control, especially as it pertains to the board? It can become debilitating. It could affect people to the point of being, or they become unproductive. So I'd like to kind of know what thoughts you have on that and what you might do moving forward if you were elected to help control that.
Okay, so feedback. Is that, are you getting feedback there?
Just on your side.
Yeah, because I moved the microphone closer. Is it good now?
Yeah, sounds fine here.
Okay, good. So the first thing that comes to mind is gossip. Gossip is a tool of the devil, and it definitely happens in life, everywhere in life. People gossip. Rumors spring from gossip. How does a board member, or more importantly, a board of 5 members, because it's not a one-person job, how does a board of 5 members help manage that? Well, I think that it's important to determine, let's call it a specific rumor, how important or not is it. Some of them you need to let lie and just let go away, because they're not worth the time of day. Other ones are not really so important, but if you hear somebody repeat it and then you hear it again and it affects our association, then I see no reason sitting here right now in this chair without being on the board and getting advice from our manager, why the board as a whole or a majority couldn't address something in our newsletter. I'll give you a brief example that may sound unimportant to some, but I don't feel it was. When I was elected to the board last time, people, there was no COVID, the town hall was being rented regularly, pretty good little amount of income for our association and a good place to have a wedding or a get together. Somehow the rumor started in Leisure Town somewhere back that you couldn't have a barbecue on the patio at the town hall. And I started asking people, is that written down anywhere? And they said, no, they just told us that you can't have a barbecue. And so there's no barbecues anywhere there. There's none around the pool, certainly. There's none on the patio that the association has installed. And so I started asking, and it wasn't a rule. It was a rumor that got life and got repeated enough times where it became accepted as the norm. So I mean, that's kind of a small one, but there's plenty of others that have come up. And I would say that I just think if there's certain things the board can deal with, neighbor to neighbor and things like that. Certain things we don't. The police have to deal with them or somebody else. So I would say that rumors need to be evaluated on their own merit and maybe somewhat individually, and then discussed. And if we're going to act on it, it would be a majority thing. It wouldn't be me throwing my hands in the air and saying, well, we have to do this about that. And I hope I've kind of covered, it's my feelings about it right now.
So you bring up a good point about the barbecues. Even though it's a small situation, it became, the understanding of the community was incorrect. So
Yes.
in that particular case, how did you correct it globally throughout our community? How did you communicate that there was a misunderstanding about this particular rule?
Yeah, well, I'll say that there was never an announcement in the newsletter about it, so it probably could have been handled better then. I know that what we're talking about were people that rented the town hall for get-togethers and things like that, but it wasn't, I mean, I'm even looking at things a little differently now because I saw that as a problem. I exposed it at some level, but it could have been done at a better level, like with, I think we had email back then, an email blast. But anyway, the newsletter was put out from our office at that point, not from the town hall magazine. And it could have been placed in the newsletter a few months in a row. That would be a better way to have done it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is, let's divide that up into two pieces. What you hear on the street as citizen Ken, and what you hear on the street as board member Ken. How do you work currently right now to, just basically to suppress rumors that are not accurate and that haven't been verified? And what would you do moving forward, knowing what you know from the past and what currently is happening? What would you do to maybe implement a process to handle that? I'm speaking more along the lines of reputation management, damage control. I haven't seen anything with LTHA and the office and the staff that really is in place to handle and manage such things. I think there should be something, but that's just me. But what steps would you take? Knowing that it doesn't exist right now, to avoid causing additional stress on the community through these rules.
Personally, I would conduct myself the way I try to do every day is and I'm not always successful, but I try to not gossip. I try to not spread rumors. When somebody tells me something, I either check it out by whatever means possible, or like I said earlier, if it's something that's maybe not so dire and important, I just kind of let it go. And I don't see why some process that's similar to that could not be discussed amongst the 5 directors. Other people have other ideas, many times better than mine are, and then come to some kind of process where we do deal with it. It might be, it comes up, I don't know, there's 6 subjects that are legal in closed session. I don't know that falls under it, so I'm not going to say closed session by any means right now here. I was very versed with those in the past, and I will be again if I'm elected. But one of our smoke alarms is going off. Sorry about that. Battery going out, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, I don't see why the process I've mentioned that works with one person can't work with a group of 5, giving some tweaks and an agreement where at least 3 of the 5 would agree on the process. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So the next kind of grouping of comments and feedback that I've received have to do with you specifically. And I should make note that these comments have come from people who know you, who support you, who think highly of you, who don't know you, and those who also maybe don't support you. 100%. So it's a nice mixture, a diverse mixture of feedback, but all of them, and I want to say that most of it is out of concern. All of them have come forward with a slight version of this question. And basically it has to do with how you're wired, how people know Ken Stockton. So Ken Stockton, you've made it very clear that, you like to run your own show. Okay, so I'll give my own personal experience with this. So with the election process, for instance, which is admirable, you like to hitch to your own post. You like to, work in group environment, but also be able to have your own time where you can speak as yourself rather than on behalf of a group. That makes sense. That makes complete sense. But that's what I'm speaking of. So sometimes people will get that impression and then they'll form their own opinion. So this is your opportunity to kind of clarify what your actions mean and how that will relate to your position in the board, because it's so easy for people to come up with their own judgment based on your behaviors and their experiences with you, and then say, well, how is that going to transition well if he gets elected, when on the board it is not just your show, it is 5 people hopefully coming to a consensus as to what is going to happen to the community. And again, these points that came to me are people that are looking at the board as a business. They're looking at getting people in these positions that will actually treat the board as a business and really manage the community for them, as if they were interviewing you and hiring you for a job. That's their interest, their vested interest. So do you have any feedback on that? Any comments?
Yeah, I do actually. So the way I'm wired comes from childhood. I know that for a fact. It comes from growing up without a dad. It comes from being the youngest of 5 and my mom raising all 5 of us. And I became a defender of myself quickly if I feel the need, but a defender of others also. And so the way I've done some things in the past that may or may not have offended some is completely out of my desire to represent people. I'm an advocate. I may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer educationally, but I'm no dummy. And there will be nobody that's ever been on this board, because I've been here 16 years and worked with at least 10 people, that will fight as hard for Leisure Town as I will. I'm not going to talk about the past, but in the past, I've gone to City Hall, I've gone to council meetings, and I will represent our community well. At times, do people say you're a little bit loud and brash? They do. Do I agree? Yes, I don't deny it. I didn't agree with your first statement, but the hitching to my own post and being my own, I work good in groups. I've worked in many groups. I've done many things with groups of people from church with food service, and I've been on missions to Cambodia. I've led missions to Cambodia. So I worked in groups under very stressful conditions. But when I feel attacked, especially directly attacked in any way, I'm apt to defend myself. And sometimes that comes off kind of strong. Since I made up my decision to run for the board again, I've toned down all my stuff on Nextdoor for one. It's it's not very hard to do. It's not very hard to do, but I just know that what people see, my good is also some of my bad. So I will be the guy that'll go to City Hall when somebody got attacked by a dog down the street. Okay, and And I will represent our community well. I will have an open ear, and I'm okay with the people that think what they want to think about me, whether they like me, whether they dislike me, whether they, some of them don't know me. Most people, when they get to know me, if they do ever get to know me, to talk one-on-one and sit down with me, they realize that most of my stuff comes from my passion. It doesn't come from hate. There's no hate. I don't hold grudges. If I do, they're not for very long. I will say what's on my mind, sometimes at a fault, but that's what comes with me, and I'll admit it in a minute.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Couple more things, and just to kind of expand on that. There are certain parts of the community that may not know you or understand you as well as they should. And you and I have worked together over the past 6 weeks or so very closely, as I have with all the candidates. And me being a promoter and a marketer, I want to push everybody out everywhere. But you made it very clear that there were certain areas that you didn't feel would be the best use of your time at this moment. That being said, if you are elected to the board, you are a board member for the whole community. Have you given any thought as to how you want to bridge the gap between you and certain aspects of the community, whether it be a club or committee, a neighborhood, anything of that nature? Have you given that any thought?
Yeah, I don't sense a gap in that term, but I've been clear and open about in the past we had many more clubs, we had many more committees that assisted the board and management now in some of the duties to alleviate some of the time and give the manager some more time to do some other work. I'm one who believes a board member should participate, and not just one board member or two board members, but all 5 board members. And when I say participate, I don't mean the agenda in the meeting. I mean things like the crawl in the building doesn't work. People asked why it doesn't work. The manager said she hasn't had time to figure out how to make it work. For me, I would have offered to do that to her. I said, I'll come in, I'll Google it. I'm kind of that fix it kind of guy, and I'd have done that. So there's definitely a new segment in the community since I led, and I know that, but I think I'm more than able and more than willing. A lot of the new people that I have met face to face or on Nextdoor seem to resonate with some of the things I say and some of the things I believe in. And I'm one that will dig into the paperwork. I will dig into the reserve study, the finances. And there are some answers out there that some aren't aware of, but it's too soon to make any announcement. I'm not hiding it in case I get elected. Whether I get elected or not, the few things that I'm aware of will be told to the people that are elected. So yeah, I think it's a process. Once you get in the position, you're going to be more exposed to our public, to our community, and then so you're going to show what you got or you're not. And I'm more than willing to do that. I have no fear of that.
Okay, thank you. And we have just about 6 minutes left, so I wanted to stop on something else, which I promised I would never bring up again, because to me it just doesn't make any sense. But there seems to be, with the current board, for whatever reason, they are not participating in social media, and whether that be a preventative measure, but that it has been, according to them, a recommendation from their legal guidance that they not participate in social media. The extent of that, we don't know. There's too much gray area in there. However, it doesn't make any sense from a business perspective to not have some sort of presence. And then it's interesting enough, because the management company, our management company, Omni, has a huge social media presence. and they use it effectively. They use it to educate. They use it to have manager minutes. They use it to have, information on the Davis Sterling, to educate people about that, tips and tools and helpful things that really bring in the community. So that being said, as active as you are on social media, how do you foresee that changing when and if you do get elected? Do you see that being a hindrance? Do you see that being something that you can work to educate them on? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? You must have given it some thought.
Well, my first statement is that 2 of the 5 existing board members are on social media, even though it's been said at meetings we're not supposed to be on social media. So 2 of the 5 are. I don't know where the other 3 lie. But anyway, I think it is a valuable tool. I think, like others have said, with some oversight, somebody looking at it, and somebody, I would, if I'm elected, I would be, by my election and by the people's beliefs in me, I would be compelled to go along with the board. So if it's a 5-person board, and if all 5 people are at a meeting, it's 3 votes. And so if something was proposed, even though I may or may not agree with it, at least on the temporary or for the time being, I would have to adhere to that. If that meant as extreme as getting off of social media, frankly, it would probably be good for me. Would I enjoy it? No, because I grew up in Brisbane, California, and I connect with so many people that I grew up with that are all over the America for sure, but all over the world. And so most of what I do, especially on Facebook, is either spiritual or it's talking to friends and saying, oh, I built that street because I work for the public works down there and this and that. So I enjoy social media. I've used Nextdoor in the past to expose some discrepancies with our HOA that I thought I saw, but there was no other vehicle to expose them. And I apologize when I made a huge mistake on the same social media that I posted it on. And so I think it's a valuable tool. I'm not a complete dinosaur, but I'm getting dinosauric at 71 years old. And so hopefully one of our younger people gets elected who is more savvy about that. And maybe Cindy, if she's our manager still, and I hope she will be, can help lead us into a better area with social media where we're using it as a good tool and not a weapon. And I'd be completely okay with that.
Good, because the majority of the world is using it for just that. And
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. And I just, that was one simple thought I had. And
Social media in 2013 consisted more of, at least in our board interaction, consisted more of a stack of papers on a table when you came to the meeting and you got them. And they were called reserve reports, they were called updates, and they were called things that I haven't seen for a while that happened back then. So anyway, yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Ken. We look forward to our next event next week. So those of you that are following us right now, if you have comments, please pop them in the chat box in Facebook. We are recording this right now. We will be posting on our Leisure Town Live YouTube channel as well as the website. So you'll be able to watch it tomorrow morning and share it with other people who may not have been able to make this evening. And real quick, ballots are out. So it's important that you take a look. Please be sure that you use the right envelope. Please be sure that you sign where you're supposed to sign, and make sure that your vote counts. It's very important. As of now, November 12th, I believe at noon, your mail-in ballots need to be received at the final destination no later than November 12th. So please plan accordingly. For those of you who can't make that deadline, you can certainly vote in person on the 16th. And I believe that's at 6 o'clock at Town Hall. So any updates, if we find them out, I'm sure you'll hear from the management office or you'll hear from us directly. But in the meantime, vote. Make your vote count. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks.